Welcome to the Chase and Embrace Show, where we interview women who are chasing God and embracing His purpose for her life, with the hopes to encourage you to do the thing that God is calling you to do. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Today is our episode number 5 of a 10-part series on saboteurs, and we are doing this, the Chase and Embrace Show, with partnership with Krystina and the Breathe Life Coaching that she is founded. And I am just so happy that we are doing this series. I love it every week. How are you doing today?
I am blessed and highly favored.
That is awesome. Perfect answer. And so I'm excited to learn, what is today's saboteur?
Today we're going to talk about the hypervigilant saboteur.
Fun. I'm kind of curious to see what this one is about. So what is the hypervigilant? I can't even say the word.
Hypervigilant saboteur.
Yes.
So we've now done a few of these. And one thing that I really want to mention, of course, is that everyone has all of these saboteurs to some degree. But we have some that are more dominant than others. And seasons and contexts can change which ones kind of rise to the top at any given time.
That makes sense.
So these are not things that are personality types. These are not things that are not fluid. These are not things that like, this is what you are and who you are and this is it. So just wanted to make sure that we're clear on that, because I don't want anyone to feel like they're being typed into anything.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. I love that.
So all of the saboteurs we talked about originate as survival techniques, coping skills, and they are strengths, and there is some sort of value that they protect. And for the hypervigilant, they really value preparation, safety, and responsibility. Yes. So what that means is that the saboteur, if you're in a situation and the saboteur feels like there's a threat to your safety, responsibility, or preparation, it's going to jump in and try to convince you that it can serve you. As we know by now with the saboteurs, they are strengths when they're contained and managed. When they are allowed to run rampant, that's when they become self-sabotaging.
Okay.
So a woman who has a very dominant hypervigilant saboteur likely learned early on, because they're formed by the time we're 5 years old, likely earned early on that something could go wrong at any moment, and it's up to her to stay on guard and to not have any kind of surprises. Now, of course, saboteurs can come out of trauma, but that is not always the case. Every single one of us has them, and not every single one of us has a traumatic upbringing. So her environment may not have been abusive. It may not have even been chaotic, but there might have been enough unpredictability or even an overly strong emphasis on caution, or even enough of an emotional inconsistency that she sort of was the worrier or the planner, the one who really felt responsible for everyone else being okay.
That's interesting. When I was a kid, there was a fire down the street. Although some people have told me that must have been a dream. But anyways, for some reason, I felt like there was a fire down the road. And from that point on, I was the one that was like, okay, this is where we're going to meet. I have a whistle to wake everybody up. I felt like it was my responsibility to take care of my family and meet someplace and have the whistle to wake everybody up and have a plan.
Yes. So now I don't know if that's translated into your adult life. Again, these are usually a response because as children, we don't have a lot of power or control over our environment, which affects our safety and stability. So all the saboteurs have been designed to give us approval, acceptance, love, stability, anything that revolves around security.
Yeah, it hasn't really gone into my adult life, at least not at this moment in lifetime, because my husband is an amazing planner. I mean, he's a developer by nature. And so in development is if this, what then? I hope I said that correctly. But anyways, he is always thinking that in every form of life. I don't think he's hyper over vigilant at it, but he's definitely always prepared. So I don't feel like I have to be overly prepared.
Yes, yes. And the way that the hypervigilant saboteur helps is it does help plan ahead. It does help notice details that other people
Hmm.
miss, anticipate problems, right? So
Hmm.
those are all positive things. Those are strengths. Those are things
Yes.
we need to be able to do. However, when it is driven by fear, because it is now out of control, it becomes anxiety, it becomes
Hmm.
tension, and it becomes kind of controlling. And we talked a little bit about the controller saboteur before.
Yes.
So when our sage brain, our wisdom, our discernment is steering the ship, it's great to have. But
Hmm.
when we are reactive, like we would be as a 5-year-old child, that's when it is driven by fear. And that those fears are generally something along the lines of just this general fear of being caught off guard, that it's
Hmm.
dangerous to let my
Hmm.
guard down, that I'm going to lose something, there's going to be pain involved, and I'm not going to be able to recover.
Okay. Interesting. So do you have an example of something like that? Like, I'm trying to think what would be an example of being overly vigilant?
So, if you have any friends or relatives or coworkers that you've come across where they're almost in a constant heightened state of stress, everywhere they look, it's there's a threat. That is the idea of a hypervigilant saboteur.
Okay.
It's someone who can't really relax.
Mhm.
It's in charge when it's flaring up. It is literally the most benign thing is a threat. So they're
Okay.
kind of in their survival brain a lot. And it
Interesting.
creates, yeah, and it creates a lot of internal tension and conflict. It can result in physical stress. She tends to get more reactive instead of responsive. So if you know anyone who is just kind of very, some people say snippy, or just kind of like on edge, walking on eggshells, waiting for the next shoe to drop, that's your hyper vigilant saboteur coming up.
And the
And
sad
it
thing is you can't control it if it were to happen. And bad things happen. It's life, unfortunately. And there's nothing you can do. And so, God says, don't worry about anything. And what he means is, it's not that we're not going to worry, but, you know, through prayer and through meditation with him, we can turn that worry over to God because we know he's in control and there's hope in him.
Yes. When the hypervigilant saboteur is thriving, it really does make it difficult for her to be present in the moment and to enjoy it and
Mm.
to be happy. And she's always obsessing over what might happen. And
Hmm.
it's never something good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what that
Yes.
causes is kind of this over functioning, over preparing, over what ifing, right? And in the workplace, it can look a lot like micromanaging. And in
Mm.
relationships, there's a lot of mistrust. I don't trust you to be able to handle it. And so, therefore, I've got to be the one to keep us safe.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to decide whether my mom fits into that or not, but I'm not too sure. But the one thing I will say is her purse is an amazing thing. She would, we would go to the park and like my daughter would, hurt her knee or she would need this or she would need that. And it was in my mom's purse. She was always prepared for me. I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about bringing band-aids in case she fell at a park or whatever.
Well, and again, that I mean, that served her well in that
Yes.
scenario. But
Yes, it did.
the woman who has a very dominant hypervigilant saboteur, and they do work together, there's not just one.
Hmm.
She may have been in a very loving home like your mom provided, but there was always a little bit of tension. Nothing catastrophic happened. You had food, you had structure, you had enjoyable times, laughter, good memories. But under it, the hypervigilant saboteur usually comes out because there's just this level of anxiety or even emotional unpredictability. Like if you have a parent who has really bad mood swings, maybe PTSD, something like that, or a sibling who has health issues, where we're not sure if we're going to be in the hospital tonight, or even just an event like a divorce or military families, constant moving, financial pressures, things like that. It was just enough that she had to kind of feel like she had to stay ahead of the next obstacle, the next challenge, the next disruption, and she had to watch the room. She has to be on guard. That's what vigilant means, is on guard.
Okay, I understand.
Yes. So no one actually told her she should be afraid. Like, oh, that's something to be scared of. That's something to be scared of. That's something to be scared of. But she learned that she can stop bad things from happening if she stays alert. Now, that's not
Hmm.
entirely true. Some things, yes,
No,
but not everything.
right, for sure.
And so she's the caretaker. She's the one who makes sure everyone's okay. It may be the oldest of the children because she's kind of the substitute parent, right? The one that helps. And she just learns that she can't relax because when she does, something goes wrong. And the reality is there is truth to that, right? Like something's always going to go wrong. She just connects it to the idea that she wasn't on guard. She let her guard down, and that's why it happened, when in fact that's not the case.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I would definitely say that was me as a child because I was the oldest and my parents fought a lot. And anytime that they were arguing, I would always comfort my sisters, or if there was a spider, I was the rescuer, or when there was a storm, I was the comforter, you know? So I can definitely see that as a child, I did probably have, that was probably a dominant saboteur, but definitely over time after life is relaxed a little bit, it didn't stay. And plus I have my husband now who is always really good at preparing. So you're right, the saboteurs are there when you need them, and they could be good, but it's when they become overactive that it starts being interfering in your life because you can't have joy, those kinds of things.
And I'm glad that you brought that up because you're proving the point that this isn't a one and done, you're stuck with this is never going to change. Your relationship dynamics, your husband has quieted that saboteur for you. So it's not a primary saboteur. It's still there, but it's not driving you, right? It's
Right.
under control. You have enough control over your life and awareness of that control that that is not one that comes up for you as a dominant saboteur.
Yes,
Now, we
definitely.
do see hypervigilance quite often in traumatic backgrounds.
Mhm.
Understandable. If I grew up with an alcoholic parent who is very abusive and unpredictable, it's the person who reads the room, who reads the energy, who starts walking on eggshells, who's trying to make sure that everything's in line. I'm always alert of danger. That would make
Mhm.
my hypervigilant saboteur very present.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. It would be, I guess I walk through life a little bit oblivious because I don't try to pay attention. But I mean, if I wasn't with my husband anymore for some reason, something happened or whatever, maybe then it would become dominant again because then I feel the need to protect myself again, right? But yeah, so it's very interesting that circumstances and situations can make different saboteurs become more dominant or move into the background.
Yeah, essentially, what the saboteur's done for her is connected this idea that hyper awareness is the same thing as love and responsibility. Obviously, that is not the case.
Right.
Hypervigilance tells us, something bad's going to happen. God says, cast all your anxiety on Him.
Yes. And he
Right.
will walk through it with us if something does. And that's not when, it's not if, it's when, because that's
Right.
life, unfortunately.
And I think what's interesting too is like we can, the hyper vigilant saboteur doesn't let us relax. We have to stay on
Mm.
guard. And Psalm 23:2 says, He makes me lie down in green pastures. It's very easy to say, well, just relax. Well, just don't
Mm-hmm.
worry about it. Your hyper vigilant saboteur does not let you do that. Now you
Okay.
can live a life where you do have this calm confidence instead of high alert. And you can learn to trust God with the unknown instead of trying to outplan it, right, or get ahead of
Mm-hmm.
it. I used to call it like mental gymnastics or playing the chess game, right? Trying to
Mm.
anticipate, well, if I say this and then they say that and then I say that and then that happens and then I go. That's the idea of the mind of a hypervigilant. It's never really truly at peace. And
Mm,
so there are things that you can do, there are strategies you can do, there are ways to quiet that saboteur in a way
mhm,
that honors what it does do for you and what it has done for you and the ways it has kept you safe, but
mhm.
also recognizing that I'm no longer a child. I'm very capable of handling whatever comes my way.
Yeah, that's cool. What would be one of those things that would be a technique to help calm that saboteur?
Well, with all the saboteurs, it's really just about you have to learn how to operate in a different part of your brain. And you have to build the muscle, the brain muscle, in order to do it.
Mm,
It's all backed in neuroscience and neuropsychology, but it's just really about getting out of your rational mind, getting out of that loop that you get
mm,
stuck in, and
oh,
being
yeah.
able to transfer that into the physicality of your body and then also transferring into the discernment of your sage brain.
Hmm. Very interesting. It's really, it's just kind of fun to learn about the different things that, these saboteurs, because they're like their own little personalities and they affect us in a positive way, but in certain circumstances they can affect us in a negative way. And I just really find it very fascinating. And I'm wondering if there's anyone out there who wants to share, like, are you an over vigilant person, or in any of the other ones? Like, I'm just kind of curious to see if there's anybody out there that's willing to share, like, oh, that's definitely me, and I wouldn't it's just kind of fun to learn about the series with you, and I'm really enjoying it. I just so appreciate this partnership that we're doing. If there's anybody out there that wants to, they have figured out that this is probably describing them, and they want to be able to find that peace, God's peace, Krystina can definitely guide you through all the techniques to get you to there, and any of the saboteurs. She's an amazing person, and so she could definitely help you walk through it. And we each have our own, and I still haven't quite figured out mine yet, but God has been working a lot on me on a lot of different areas. So different areas at different times in my life, these saboteurs have peaked their dominance. But thankfully, through God, I've been able to hopefully mostly, just rely on him and not rely on my own defenses, because there's not really anything I could do, no matter what, no matter what anyways. But I am so happy that we're doing this series, and I appreciate our partnership, and I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me and giving me the time to share this. There's so much more than we could possibly cover in a podcast, but hopefully it speaks to somebody and that she knows that this is not just how she's made and it's never going to be any different and there is no hope. There are lots of things we can do. She's perfectly normal. She's human. It's okay.
Yes.
But there can be a better life for her.
Yes, one that's much more at peace and relaxed, and just realizing that God is going to walk through whatever happens, and it's his peace beyond understanding that we all strive to get. And it's a daily walk. So I appreciate you. We'll see you next week for number 6,
It's
Saboteur.
great. Thank you. Blessings.
Blessings.